Breaking right now at 5:30, escalating conflict. President Donald Trump defending U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran as the operation enters day 4. The U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia under fire tonight. 6 U.S. service members now confirmed dead, their names just being released. What top officials just told Congress. Leave now, the U.S. urging Americans in a dozen Middle East countries to get out as tensions with Iran escalate. The embassy's under fire and the new orders from government personnel. Walk of Shame. It looks like the Hollywood Walk of Fame, but the names in this park are linked to Jeffrey Epstein, who is behind the surprise display and how long it may stay in place. Alert tonight, breast cancer cases are projected to surge worldwide, with numbers expected to climb to more than 3 million. What experts say women can do to lower their risk. Final farewell, hundreds gather to say goodbye to Dr. Norman C. Francis, the beloved educator, former president of Xavier University and civil rights leader. We remember his legacy, his impact on generations of students, and why he's considered a giant in higher education. Dog treat danger. A popular snack is being pulled from shelves due to salmonella concerns. The steps you need to take to protect your pet and get your money back. Tigers send-off. The LSU women's basketball team heading to the postseason, but not before a major send-off celebration. Where to park and how to catch the player interviews, even if you can't make it to the PMAC. And dodging raindrops, Jeff Morrow is tracking scattered showers as temperatures climb toward record highs to end the week.
You're watching WAFB's streaming newscast, live and local, with Dion Guillory. This is 9 News at 5:30.
We were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that.
President Donald Trump once again justifying the military strikes in Iran. Good evening and thank you for streaming with us at 5:30. I'm Dion Guillory. The president saying the strikes on Iran was, quote, something that had to be done, arguing that he believed Tehran was getting ready to attack. 6 U.S. service members have been killed so far, with the conflict in its 4th day. The State Department is urging Americans in the region to get out if they can. The developments come as Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and others briefed Congress. Aaron Navarro starting us off from Capitol Hill.
As strikes continue to rock Iran's capital city, President Trump defended his decision to use military force.
If we didn't do what we're doing right now, you would have had a nuclear war and they would have taken out many countries, because you know what? They're sick people.
In the Oval Office Tuesday, the president also pushed back on Secretary of State Marco Rubio's remarks that the U.S. got involved because Israel was planning the strike, triggering retaliation from Iran.
Based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first, and I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand.
Israel sent troops into Lebanon Tuesday as the war widened, and Iran launched retaliatory strikes across the region, including a hit on the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia. The State Department urged Americans in 14 countries across the Middle East to get out if they can.
We're going to unleash Cheng on these people in the next few hours and days. You're going to really begin to perceive a change in the scope and in the intensity of these attacks.
Here on Capitol Hill with Secretary Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and others, briefing all members of Congress, Democrats wanted answers on the administration's justification for war and its endgame.
There seems to be no clear goal, an objective that is achievable without a prolonged, forever war that envelops the entire region.
I am troubled by the lack of a rationale. Is it the nuclear program? Is it missiles? Is it regime change? Is it oil?
Both the House and Senate are set to vote on war powers resolutions this week that would require the president to seek congressional approval for any continued military action against Iran. Aaron Navarro, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Sources say the FBI fired a dozen agents and staffers who were monitoring threats from Iran days before the U.S. attacked the country. They worked for a counterintelligence unit known as CI-12. According to sources, FBI Director Kash Patel fired the workers because they previously investigated President Donald Trump's alleged mishandling of such documents. They also say several other senior officials have been ousted or reassigned due to their involvement in Trump-related investigations. That's causing concern concerned that U.S. intelligence could lose expertise in identifying new threats from the Middle East. The U.S. is urging Americans to leave more than a dozen Mideast countries amid the conflict with Iran. It's also mandating the departure of some non-emergency government personnel. They include those in Jordan, Bahrain, Iraq, Qatar, and Kuwait. The State Department says citizens struggling to leave can call them for help. Officials say the U.S. embassies in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait have sustained hits during the fighting. Tens of thousands of travelers remain trapped in the Middle East as the conflict between the U.S., Israel, and Iran rages on. Many tourists finding themselves unexpectedly stranded as the conflict broke out over the weekend, with airspace in the region closed or severely restricted. Several airlines cautiously resumed limited operations out of the United Arab Emirates today, but some Americans who were vacationing in Dubai are still looking for some way out.
We've had several flights canceled. We are now scheduled to go out Thursday at 2:30 in the morning. And you know, we don't know if it's going to happen or not. So they definitely don't want you to go to the airport until you get official word that your plane is going to be departing.
The State Department has urged Americans in more than a dozen Middle Eastern countries to leave that region if they can. Now, drivers are seeing the biggest one-day jump in gas prices since Hurricane Katrina in 2005. According to AAA, the national average increased 11 cents today. The average price of gas is now $3.11 a gallon. The spike follows U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a key global oil route. Iran has also launched retaliatory attacks targeting oil infrastructure and several oil-rich U.S. allies in the region. All right, let's talk about your weather now because we're seeing some near-record heat. Rain is in the mix, but the big story is the surge in temperatures. Jeff Morrow is here with your first look forecast. Jeff.
Well, the three key things we're going to be tracking in our weather: morning fog expected through the weekend, warmer than normal temperatures also remaining in our forecast, and find and dust off that umbrella. You're actually going to probably need it for the rest of this week all the way into the weekend. For tomorrow, this is a snapshot of four different weather guidance, and you can see how they are showing a difference of opinion, but definitely some scattered showers, maybe a rumble or two of thunder back into the forecast for the afternoon. So this is kind of between 2 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon for each of those models. So bottom line, good to have the umbrella handy for tomorrow as we're looking at a max coverage about 50% for our viewing area to receive measurable rainfall. So a good idea to at least have it on standby, especially if you got those afternoon errands to run. Here's a look at the pinpoint forecast. We're going to start things out very warm, very mild in the mid to upper 60s. We'll have that area of fog around. Densest fog will be closer to large bodies of water, Mississippi River, tidal lakes, think that. And then as you look towards the afternoon, here comes that increase in shower and thunderstorm potential, but still in the scattered variety. So we're not calling for widespread rain, not calling for severe weather, not calling for flood concerns, but certainly a little bit out of the norm, at least for the weather pattern that we've been dealing with, to have rain returning to the forecast. Dion?
All right, Jeff, thanks. Well, regulation of carbon capture and sequestration will be just one of the focuses during this year's legislative session, which starts next week. House and Senate leadership pushing to lower insurance rates and prepare for a future where data centers dominate the state's energy grid. Senate President Cameron Henry says a lot of that work is being done at the Public Service Commission, but he's concerned about the cost for you.
Right, so when they build something new for someone new, the consumers pay the cost of that. They're also allowed to tack on a 10% return, up to a 10% return on that investment. So if you think about it just for a second, they get a 10% return on investing your money. You don't.
Henry says a task force at the Capitol is also having ongoing conversations about protecting your utility bill. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem testifying before a Senate committee today for the first time since the shooting deaths of 2 American citizens in Minnesota by federal agents. Jared Hill giving us a closer look at the hearing with concerns from both sides of the aisle.
Is it so hard to say you were wrong?
Holding firm before the Senate Judiciary Committee, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem refused to say if federal agents might be at fault in the shooting deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. She also defended her initial statements following the shootings.
Ma'am, I did not call him a domestic terrorist. I said it appeared to be an incident of.
I think the parents saw it for what it was.
North Carolina Republican Thom Tillis has called for Noem's resignation, saying she mismanaged the department while trying to meet White House deportation targets.
We want 1,000 a day, 6,000 a day, 9,000 a day because numbers matter, right? No, they don't matter. What we've seen is innocent people getting detained that turn out are American citizens.
Some of them were at the hearing, including Marimar Martinez, a U.S. citizen shot 5 times by a Border Patrol agent in Chicago last fall.
That situation, I don't know the details of, but I will look into that.
Parts of DHS have been shut down since February 14th, with Democrats holding up funding while pushing for ICE reforms after the deadly chaos in Minneapolis.
Immigration enforcement, aviation security, disaster response, cybersecurity, and the protection of critical infrastructure are all being strained.
We will find you.
Republican Senator John Kennedy wanted to know more about a $220 million DHS ad campaign featuring Noem.
Helpful to know is how effective that communications has been. That
they
overwhelmingly
were effective in your name recognition.
Questioned about the midterm elections, Noem said there were no plans for ICE agents to be at polling places in November. Jared Hill, CBS News.
A Georgia man whose teenage son is accused of killing 2 students and 2 teachers at a high school was convicted of second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter. It's a landmark case that sets a tone for who can be held accountable for mass shootings. Prosecutors say Colin Gray bought his 14-year-old son the AR-15 style rifle and allowed him access to the weapon despite receiving warnings he was a danger to others. Gray argued he tried to get his son mental health treatment and didn't know he planned to shoot up a school. The murder charges carry a maximum sentence of 30 years each, and the manslaughter charges can go up to 10 years each. Newly released video shows Bill and Hillary Clinton giving depositions about convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein before the House Oversight Committee last week. Now, the Clintons answered questions for more than 4.5 hours each and denied any knowledge of Epstein's crimes. Caitlin Huey-Burns has that story.
Do you soundly? Former President Bill Clinton acknowledged in the deposition that he flew on Jeffrey Epstein's private plane around a dozen times, he says, to travel for philanthropic work.
Were there anybody on the flights that you can recall under age 18?
To the best of my knowledge, there was not.
The former president denied ever visiting Epstein's infamous island.
I've never been to that island.
Or seeing Epstein do anything inappropriate.
Well, I never saw him do anything that I was suspicious of.
Clinton said he cut ties with Epstein years before he pleaded guilty to solicitation of prostitution with a minor in 2008.
I thought Mr. Epstein was an interesting man, but I didn't think he was really interested in what I was doing.
Clinton was also asked about a conversation he had with President Trump in the early 2000s at a golf fundraiser in which Trump described a falling out with Epstein.
And he said, you know, we had some great times together over the years, but we fell out, all because of a real estate deal. And he said, I'm sorry it happened. That's all.
Please raise your right hand. A day earlier, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton denied any connection to the convicted sex offender.
And I have answered for many hours now that I had no relationship because I never met the guy to my best recollection.
And the video shows Clinton's reaction when her lawyer revealed images from inside the closed deposition had leaked online.
I'm done with this. If you guys are doing that, I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home. This is just typical behavior.
Bill Clinton acknowledged his friendship with Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell lasted longer because she was dating a mutual friend, though he denied any knowledge of her crimes. Meanwhile, Democrats are calling on President Trump to testify before the committee. Caitlin Huey-Burns, CBS News, Washington.
A display dubbed the Epstein Walk of Shame has popped up in Washington, D.C.'s Farragut Square. Modeled after the Hollywood Walk of Fame, it features stars bearing the names of people linked to the Epstein files. Each star contains a QR code that links to articles or public records discussing the person's reported ties to the late convicted sex offender. It is unclear who created the display or how long it will remain in place. Hundreds gathered today to honor the life and legacy of Dr. Norman C. Francis as the community said a final goodbye to the beloved educator and civil rights leader. The beloved educator and civil rights leader served as Xavier's president for nearly 5 decades, leaving a lasting impact on generations of students. Friends, family, and members of the community gathered to celebrate his life, remembering his leadership, humility, and commitment to education. Dr. Francis is being remembered as a giant in higher education and a champion for opportunity and equality.